Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
Hello. Welcome, everyone. This is Life List, a birding podcast with Mollee Brown, Alvaro Jaramillo, and me, George Armistead.
Hello.
Hey there. We're all just talking about how we get to catch up, so it's nice to have these every now and then.
My goodness, it's been a minute.
Yeah. You got
Yeah,
a
it has.
crab hat on. Where'd you get the crab hat there, George?
Dude, I love my crab hat. It's I think is it Duck Company? Let's see. Yeah, no, Duck Camp. You know, they do, they've got all sorts of like different duck hats and pintails, mallards, and I saw they came out
crab.
They came out with the blue crab, which is like, you know, pretty iconic for the eastern shore of Maryland, where I spend a good bit of time. And I saw that and I was like, I got to get one of those for my dad. And then I was like, wait, I want one too. So I got one for each of us.
Huh.
Pretty cool matching hats.
The only place I've seen blue crab in abundance is Cuba. Weirdly enough, I don't know how far south they go, but they're widespread. Those suckers. You know,
I would not have guessed they got that far south.
Yeah,
Keystone species of Chesapeake Bay. Doing a quick search here on Calanectes sapidus.
The sappy crab.
Yeah, it says native to the waters of the Western Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You know, I live 5 miles from the Maryland border, and the second you cross the state line, there is crab on every menu. And it is not fresh over here, and it is not what you get on the West Virginia side or the Pennsylvania side, but Marylanders sure love it.
Yeah, well, big deal.
Yeah.
Yep. It ain't getting any cheaper, I swear. But still try to find my ways to a crab cake at least a couple times this summer. And our buddy Zach Bear, he went out, was it last spring, came back with a couple bushels of blue crabs. And we feasted on blue crabs. We did like a proper, throwdown with a bunch of blue crabs, which was really fun. It was a good time.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yep. But there's nothing better than like a pile of lump crab meat. That's about as decadent as it gets. And there is perhaps no better vehicle for melted butter than lump crab meat, I dare say.
I'm with you.
I don't know. I'm like the Dungeness crab in the West is so nice and fatty. You don't need any butter on Dungeness. It's absolutely perfect.
Dungeness
Just
is
salt.
pretty exquisite. I would say butter makes pretty much everything better.
I was going to say, is this really a need situation?
Yeah. It's more that it is. Yeah, it just adds to the decadence of the blue crab.
It's funny. I don't use butter on almost anything. I'm a non-butter guy. I don't use butter on toast.
Well,
Do you eat your toast plain?
I'll just put eggs on it. Usually. I don't actually have toast without eggs.
No butter in your eggs?
No. Am I weird? Is this not
just for that
really
reason.
normal?
Just don't want you to miss out.
yeah.
Wow, man. I don't know. Butter. Not one of my, now mayonnaise, that's a different thing, but butter.
Oh God, Alvaro. Your
Who
stock
needs
is
butter?
plummeting right now, in my view.
I don't know. I don't know, man. You're that Necco wafer guy. Like
That's true.
Nobody eats those things.
I know. There's a new deli that opened up not too far from here. And I was pretty excited to check it out. But they have a new tomato pie club program is like their big promo item. And I was like, oh no, now I just on principle, I'm not sure I can patronize, but I probably will, because a good hoagie also trumps, just about any tomato pie, promo situation. So
When you said
Yeah.
New Delhi, I thought like it was an Indian restaurant, but here, yeah.
I was waiting for Necco wafers at the deli.
Yeah. We're covered in butter.
There we go. So, guys, it is springtime. I know, like, we are at, maybe just barely past peak spring migration. Probably for Alvaro, it is peak in southern Ontario. It's still pretty much peak here for Mollee and for me. And I'm curious, what you been seeing? Mollee, what have you been seeing lately?
I've been back home for 3 days, so I do feel like I kind of missed the wave. Like, um, at least around here, I feel like there's always a bay-breasted warbler day, and I miss that. So there were a few of those that I missed, but the yard's been really fun. I've just been birding this area. There are yellow-billed cuckoos around, and I didn't have a single cuckoo on my yard list last year, so that is a nice thing right now. And there are still plenty of Swainson thrushes coming through. Had a black-billed cuckoo around for a couple days, and a nice mix of warblers. I have yet to get a Swainson's for the yard list, and I'm kind of bummed about that, but there's still hope because they are still spreading.
Yeah, probably just a matter of time there.
Yeah, it's been really nice. It's been fun just to watch stuff roll through, and I've been camped out on the porch for most of it. So, it's funny how much you pick up just sitting outside, even in the middle of the day when stuff's relatively quiet. There's still birds that I hear just working through the woods, and I know they're moving because I've been out there all day and they weren't there in the morning, so I've been enjoying that.
Nice. Al, I know you've been getting some yardbirds, but I don't know what they are.
Well, I guess the highest number of migrants based on radar went by, like in the entire spring, went by the last few days, like Saturday, Sunday, Monday. They were huge, huge days. Interesting though, like the Saturday, I was like, went to the point, which is a few kilometers away, which is a migratory hotspot, and actually saw a lot of migrants, but it wasn't as good as I thought it. I mean, it wasn't the numbers that were being seen overhead didn't correlate to the numbers on the ground, although it was a good day, right? It was a good day. And what was interesting is I did find a prairie warbler, which is pretty rare here. It's probably annual in the county. So that was cool. And then hooded warblers have shown up here last few days, and that's again like an overshoot. They don't breed anywhere near here, so that's kind of been interesting. But in the yard, one of the most interesting things that happened was yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah. Monday I stuck around because I thought this is going to be another big day, and I'm not going to go to the point. I'm just going to stick to the yard. And I saw like 7 new species in the yard. It was pretty good. But the next day, the weather shifted, and I had some interesting situations. One of them is a tight flock of terns just dropped out of the sky, like 40 terns in a flock, which is something I've never really seen, flying high overhead. And there were common terns. There might have been an Arctic tern. You never know. Like, I just couldn't get enough imagery to absolutely say there is an Arctic tern in there. But the way they were acting, they were going north. They were like moving well north of here. It's not kind of local birds. Then, 2 red-throated loons flew over high up overhead. And I'm like, well, that's weird. They're over water. They're, off in the distance in the lake. And it was sort of these weirdo things. And then just a big block of dunlins dropped out of nowhere and passed by over here. And now I've had some dunlins landing in the marsh across my, the bay. They just have nowhere to land around here. There's no shorebird habitat. So it was really kind of like an intense sort of like, what's going on? The bad weather. bringing things down, birds not knowing what to do. But the new ones for the yard were some of them were relatively common ones I hadn't seen. Chestnut-sided warbler, magnolia warbler, and then some more unusual things like orchard oriole, red-headed woodpecker, and northern mockingbird, which up here is we're right on the edge. So they, I think those were some of the new ones. So I am just several birds away from reaching top 100 yards in Canada.
Oh boy.
So
Ooh.
I'm trying to see if I can do that within the year that we've been here. So I have another 10 days.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it is getting down to the wire for that.
Yeah. The top 100. So on
Nice.
eBird.
I forgot that you can look at that for yard
Yeah.
list.
That's all I care about. Screw this life list stuff.
I believe that is true, actually. I think.
Yeah. Like, who cares?
When he says that is all I care about, I think I believe the totality of that statement.
Yeah. 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 It's like getting that yard up there. Yeah.
Nice.
Are you drinking
Nice.
mate over there?
He is. He's mateando. Está mateando.
I was gonna make some. So wait, do you just drink your cup and then? My problem with it is I would want to go get up and refill it 4 times while we're recording.
Well, you
must
one of
have
these
more
things.
patience with it than me.
You got a thermos.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so you do have that solved. I was about to make mate before we recorded because it really
Millions
is the
of people have
perfect.
solved this in the same way. Yeah.
I guess so. Clearly I'm not Chilean.
The thermos. Yeah, the thermos is vital. Yeah.
Noted for next time.
Yeah.
George, have you been in your yard much?
Yeah, I have. I will say that I'm coming to the slow and painful realization that my yard is not particularly good in spring. It's pretty good in fall, and it can be even really good. But in spring, it is not. I wouldn't say it's not been a particularly fulfilling time of year. But I've been venturing beyond the yard quite a bit, actually. More than the last couple of years. Been birding on the Eastern Shore with my dad a good bit in Eastern Shore, Maryland on Delmarva. And nothing really rare at all. But just, it's just nice to see the stuff that you checking in with the birds that you only see in migration. It's been really nice. Yeah, went out with a friend here locally the other day as well. And chat is actually a really scarce bird in the city limits of Philadelphia. South of here, if you get out into some of the surrounding counties, there are places you can find it. My anecdotal take is that their numbers have gone way down region-wide here. In the last couple decades. So it was a treat for us to hear one kind of be like, it was one of those things where we heard it like call a few times and we're like, that's a chat. And then like it went silent and we're like, were we crazy? Like we're like, I know we heard a chat,
Yeah.
But then you go for a half hour hearing nothing. You start to doubt yourself and then you're like, and then all of a sudden it pipes up and it's singing again nonstop. And you're like, there we go. There he is. That's where it's happening. So that was pretty cool to watch that, to have that experience with that bird, which is, I usually see one once a year in Philadelphia if I'm out enough. And then while we were watching that, chat flew off eventually saw it where it was singing from, flew off, and within seconds, a black-billed cuckoo appeared on the exact same spot where this yellow-breasted chat was, and it had, in its grips and its bill a nice tent caterpillar, and it started thrashing that caterpillar against the branch, beating it up, and eventually choked it down and flew off. And black-billed cuckoo is a bird I really do not get to see very often. I'm lucky if I see it once a year. And so that's always a real treat. So that made for a real nice morning just a few days ago. It's also been really fun to see, I know they're common and everywhere, and this is a species I feel that has actually increased dramatically in the last 20 years around here, but red foxes are just so active right now. And I guess they're kind of at the peak of denning activity where they got pups, so they're like much more active during the day even because they gotta find food for the pups.
Kind of the height of food gathering, yeah.
Exactly. And so yeah, like I've just been seeing foxes, I feel like everywhere I go and enjoying encounters with them. Saw one carrying a chipmunk the other day, and I was like, I gave it a couple squeaks trying to get it to turn and look at me, and it could not be bothered. It did not care. It was like, I got things to do. I got mouths to feed. I'm moving. Like, dude,
cannot entertain you right now.
Exactly. Like, dude, you with the camera, I just can't be bothered. And I did get a shot of it, but I was like at its closest. I was thinking, man, this would be a beautiful opportunity, but he would never look at me. But and then have down on the my folks' farm had some nice fox encounters as well with one that I spotted. Like it was probably a quarter mile off, and I had the sun behind me and the wind coming from behind it, and it just trotted. I just held my position and watched it for like 10 minutes while it slowly made its way towards me, and saw like fish crows mobbing it and stuff. And so the foxes have been giving me a lot of juice this spring as well. So it's been nice. Yeah, nothing rare, but the stuff that's been around has just been really, really nice to see. Been a nice spring.
It's pretty cool. Chats are one of those that I feel like really creep up on you. Like you said, you kind of hear it in the background, and then at some point it just clicks where you're like, oh yeah, that's a chat that I'm hearing. And watching a cuckoo demolish a caterpillar is something I look forward to every single year. Just waiting for the time you get to see that.
Yeah, you're in good cuckoo country there where you live.
Yeah. Black-bills breed around here too. But I typically the past several years on the property, we had 2 yellow-billed cuckoos, one on either end, and then last year there were none. So today was actually the first day that I heard one here. So we'll see if they stick around. But I was amazed. I didn't remember this from last year, but when I was in West Texas, and this is like where hill country meets West Texas, so I feel like I have to clarify that for the Texans, but it's West Texas to me. Anyway, I was amazed at the density of yellow-billed cuckoos in that part of the country. They are everywhere. They are totally omnipresent, and I don't know why I don't remember that from before. Maybe there were more. I don't know. I feel like you could not get out of earshot of a cuckoo, which was pretty fun.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic with them around here in Philly, I would say, is like if I'm in the city limits here, I'm not sure which one is more likely on a given day during migration, and both probably have bred here at times, although they're both scarce, rare breeders, I would guess without looking at the data. But on like the Delmarva Peninsula in spring in particular, yellow-bills breed pretty commonly and all along the coastal plain, whereas black-bills are much rarer. I feel like it's much more a bird of the Piedmont. I expect that up where you are, Alvaro, that black-billed might outnumber yellow-bills, but I'm curious what your experience is there.
Yellow-bills are rare here. They're overshoots, basically. So you basically only see black-bills.
Yeah. Or do you see many?
Sense.
Yeah. Well, actually, last year I saw a few, but I wasn't here in May, so they were in June, around. So I'll see what happens this year. But yeah,
some great sounds they make too. The like not just the song, but I love that sort of like guttural flight sound they make when they're flying over. That's one I keep hoping to hear from the yard here at some point.
Yep. That's one that doesn't fade into the background. You hear it and it clicks.
Jumps out
what you've got. Yeah. Okay, I've had some kind of cool mammal moments and not cool. First off, also in Texas, I'd never seen this before, but there was a spot where the group that I was leading was photographing some great horned owls, and the young had just fledged, and they were kind of spread out in some live oaks in a park, and a gray fox popped out, and we got to watch it run up a live oak and curl up and fall asleep in the tree, which I thought was the coolest thing. Yeah, it just went right up. I mean, the perfect tree. And it was between the adult great horned and the fledglings. And they didn't react to it at all. It was very close to them. And not one of those birds or that fox cared. So I thought that was a really weird dynamic.
One of the trails I was birding on the other day here is called the Gray Fox Trail. And I was like, I have never seen a gray fox in southeastern PA. The only one I think I've seen nearby is I remember doing one of the ABA young birder camps in southern Delaware, and we were birding down there in middle of summer and had a gray fox. So that, I haven't seen many in the East even. So that's pretty cool to see one actually though, like doing its thing, just kind of curl up and be like, all right, I'm done for time being.
I thought so. It was pretty cool. On the not great and mammal news, so we have a black bear. It's been getting into our feeders, tearing up stuff around the house. We were gone, both of us, for a few days, so it really had some fun tearing stuff up. But we put all the feeders away. It destroyed all of the seed that was accessible, so that we thought it would go away. But then the next day, it went through and it ate all of our bluebird babies.
Oh,
and doesn't that hurt? It took, we have 3 bluebird boxes on the property spread out, and they're just on the little metal poles, and they're all just bent. It just folded the poles. It just like put a paw. You can see the marks. It put a paw on the top of the bluebird box, just folded it down like a piece of paper, and they're open, and
jeez,
babies are. Isn't that horrible?
That's rough.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of shook me. Though I do wish that I could have seen it do any of this. It's kind of interesting to see the just bite marks and claw marks showing up in different places.
Jesus.
So, yeah, that was pretty intense. I guess we could have left birdseed out for it at that point. So, we'll see how that problem develops.
The other day, one of the cool things one of them's bird related. It's like we were walking on this trail where the observatory is, and there's a lot of birders. And one of the locals said to me, there's supposed to be a ruffed grouse nest here. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, you're right by this place here. We go over there, and like 9 feet away, there's this ruffed grouse just sitting on the ground, and you couldn't see it. You couldn't see it, and it was not moving, but it was so crazy once you got in your binoculars. You could see the big eye sitting there, and its bill, and how it's hard to believe. Like, it was not that far from the trail, and there, people go by with dogs and all that stuff, and it just sits, tight, knowing nobody's going to see it. But then, one of the locals also said, "Oh, go the other way on that trail. But go to the water, and there's a nest of a bowfin." Do you guys know what a bowfin is? It's this crazy-ass fish that's like, I guess it's related maybe to a gar, but it's prehistoric looking. And they said, well, look around the nest. The fish is usually there. And me and my friend Carl, we go there. And we're like, we don't really know. I know kind of the shape of the thing, but I have no idea what the size is. So we're just looking around and nothing. And then this monster fish comes out of the darkness, and it was huge and just crazy thing. And I'm like, I cannot believe this is here. It looks so weirdly tropical, or not in colors, but in it was probably, I get 2 feet, or something like that. It's big, like big bulky thing, and just slow moving, kind of like some kind of grouper or something. It's just crazy. But yeah, I don't know if you see the photos of them, but they're weird.
Yeah, I just looked it up. I've heard of that before, but I had no mental image. It says it's regarded as a relict, being one of 2 surviving species of Helicomorphae, a group of fish that have first appeared during the early Triassic, about 250 million years ago. So it sounds like it may look pretty prehistoric.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. 2 little lifer things. Yeah.
Yeah. The Great Lakes have a lot of very old relics of fish, right? I mean, is that
Right.
the Great Lakes effect that you're getting?
I think there's something like that. I know there's what are those things that have like the big kind of sawfish or something like that? Aren't they around here in the Great Lakes? There's some wild things. There's some gars and, some of the deep water
Sturgeon.
lake trout, sturgeon. There's a lot of crazy ass
Yeah,
stuff.
sturgeon are cool. Yeah. I've been to a few, really just this year, a couple aquariums. There's a nice freshwater aquarium in Duluth, Minnesota, that has a lot about the Great Lakes, and it's really cool. I would recommend to anybody who wants to go to an aquarium to check out some freshwater ones because it's fun to see that. It's so overwhelming to me to try to dive into those worlds. I like doing stuff like that because it makes me feel like I can reimagine what it's like to be on a bird walk for your first time and feel that overwhelmed because that's basically where I am with a lot of fish and other categories. But it is cool. And then you can touch the sturgeon and feel their
Yeah.
leathery skin.
I was thinking of paddlefish, not sawfish, but I guess they're super rare, if not gone from a lot of the Great Lakes. But they're a wacky looking thing too. They look almost like a crocodile kind of thing, with a big paddle on the face. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah,
wow.
that's a weird looking beast right there. It looks kind of like a shark, actually, with
Mhm.
like a gharial face.
Mhm.
Yeah, pretty bizarre looking.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how my fishlet starts like racking up in here.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. My last non-bird story. You can tell me if this is good or bad. I saw a mountain lion for the first time.
What?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How is that bad? Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
okay,
that's like
because
one of my most wanted mammals.
me too. So it was frustrating. And I'll tell you why. So I went to New Mexico for a few days after I was in Texas and was up at the Ghost Ranch, and we took a walk just up this canyon and had heard that a few days before that someone had seen a mountain lion right at the start of this trail. And I think they said it had been many years since they'd had any mountain lion reports. So somebody said they saw one, assumed that was it. But a few nights later, walked up just after dark, and there was green eye shine. I would guess like 40 yards away. It was not very far. And it was just slinking like perfectly smoothly, no bounce like a coyote or something trotting like that. So you just had that feeling that you knew what it was right at that point. And we shined a light on it, and I got a very quick look at a mountain lion just walking away. So we were in this little ravine, and it kind of walked up the ravine and just went out of sight. It was not far away. So my first thought was it probably had a kill and was hanging out there since it was in the exact same spot for multiple nights. But the frustrating part was at that point, we were like, what do you do if you want to get a better look at a mountain lion that's hanging out? Do we try to follow it? So we were kind of like underneath it, and it had, kind of walked up the bank from us. And I don't know if it was walking parallel to us or walking away. But I did not know what to do to in that situation, if it's worth trying to get a better look or not.
You give it a little piss, piss, piss,
I mean,
like here, kitty cat. Yeah.
Yeah.
They come into playback, but I'm not sure that's allowed. I don't know.
Yeah. Got to be careful what you play back too, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, do you actually want I mean, I kind of wanted it to come into playback, but I really wasn't sure what to do at that point. And it was after dark. And there were just two of us. And we were kind of by ourselves out there. And I thought, I don't know, it's maybe a dumb thing to do for a mountain lion that seems to be hanging out in one spot. Maybe, I don't know if it's right to say guarding it, but so we kind of poked around looking without like pushing it too much and didn't get another look. But saw a mountain lion. So
That's pretty awesome. I mean,
it was really cool, but it's gonna always eat at me. Like, I wonder if I could have tried to see it better.
yeah, I bet you'll clean it up better later. But
yeah, someday, somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I've never even had a sniffle.
Maybe around here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, where was it? Is it Minnesota? Recently, they had a family that showed up on a trail cam. Actually, I think they heard about it, set up a trail cam, and were able to document a female with, I think, 3 pretty good sized, like nearly adult sized young. And I think that is the first time they've been found there in like over a century as, as evidenced of bringing off young. But there's been the stuff like that is happening, like there's a lot more trees now in parts of the East than there were a few decades ago. And, there was a gray wolf that showed up in central New York that was, the first one there in I think about a century or more. And with these trail cams, all sorts of stuff is popping up. I saw that they're in Delaware, central, pretty much almost the middle of the Delmarva Peninsula, where I don't think there have been bobcats for decades. There was one that showed up in one of these kind of coastal towns in Delaware and was on a ring cam, So I think you're right, Mollee. Maybe even in your backyard someday. That
well, I have the trail cameras up, so we're interviewing Scott Weidensaul soon, and I had a conversation with him when we were on the Texas coast together about mountain lions, actually. So we should talk to him about this and rewilding in the East. I think that's a pretty cool topic. So it'll be fun to dig into that with him.
Yeah, I know he's spending a lot of time up in the Adirondacks and, and further north even there. That'd be interesting indeed. Look forward to that.
I'm surprised that New York hasn't had a wolf for so long, but then I guess they would have to cross the St. Lawrence River to get down there because they're here just north of me, like in Algonquin, although it's not truly gray wolf, it's something else. But I'm not sure what they're considering it now, but it's more closely allied to red wolf.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of details of that, but I mean, red wolf DNA shows up all over the East, right?
Yeah, and I think that's what the population is in Algonquin is like it's like a weird mix of red wolf and there's some coyote and, and the true gray wolves are further north. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Did get to see a red wolf once, Alligator River National Wildlife Refuge in North Carolina.
Did you?
Yeah.
What time of year?
It would have been May. It was Ned Brinkley and I were leading a tour there, and we had one running around with a collar on that we saw.
That's pretty cool.
We had a guy on the tour, I remember, who had seen them in Arkansas in this trip that would have been probably in 2008 or something like that. And this guy had seen them 60 or 70 years earlier in Arkansas, I think it was. And I was like, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that you're the only person that has gone 65 years between wild red wolf sightings in the country, but who knows? But I don't know how those things are doing. It's been a rough. I know it's been a rough ride. Red wolves.
Yeah, I think not well. I think there have been a lot of vehicle hits,
road kills
in the past couple years. Yeah, that takes a toll when you've got a population of what, a few dozen?
Yeah, not many. Now, Al, I think I need
Yes.
to hear this story about this gull that you
Gull.
just saw in the North Country. Tell us about that
Oh,
experience.
yes. So I was at the Kachemak Shorebird Festival, and I was doing keynote and also gave a talk about bird migration. And I actually got to introduce the movie Listers. They had 2 public showings. So there was a
Cool.
lot of stuff going on. You will be impressed, George. I know this is going to be
I'll be the judge.
It's backwards, right? Can you read it?
No, it's right. It's rightwise.
It's right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow, I am impressed, Al. You won the Shorebird Festival Trivia Night, and all you got was this
our
stupid
team.
cozy.
Yeah, it's
Wow, how many
it's-
of there were you? They must have had some. You must have had some ringers in order to win.
Well, I know a little bit about birds myself, but there were. See, people don't know this about George, but George loves trivia. Like he loves
It's true.
drinking
don't
and
talk about
trivia,
that on
bar stuff. And he's like into it and
Pub
whatever.
quiz, quizzo.
Pub quiz. So at the festival, they have a trivia night competition, and you would be amazed at how many people show up. Like hundreds of people are there doing this trivia thing. Multiple teams. I don't know, 20 teams? Something like
And this
that.
is revolving strictly
Man,
around
that's-
shorebirds or birds or
birds. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
birds.
Okay.
Birds
Yeah.
in Alaska. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, and there's different sections, but there was one section about the Alaska National Wildlife Refuge System. Unfortunately, we did have ringers that knew that stuff.
You would have
We
needed
had-
some help with that one. Yeah.
We had ID people, we had status, we had the whole, and I think we won by 1 point, but there was an ID question, and they just showed photographs, and one of them was a dowitcher where you couldn't see its head,
Oh boy.
and it was a long-billed dowitcher, but they actually had it as a short-billed, so
Oh wow.
we were keeping that one in our back pocket as like.
Man. So you had to
but,
correct the judges on
No. They were like, with the judges were basically like, somebody told us it was that, so we're going with it. But we have, don't talk to me. It was like, talk to the others. But it was funny because we were
just work
kind
here.
of. It was like scheming. If we don't win, we can send this to the judges for review. But of course, it was all for good fun, so nobody really cared. But it's you didn't get big cash prizes. So anyway, yeah, the Shortford Festival has a ton of stuff going on. That bird calling contest. They have all sorts of kid events. They have like I said, movies. They have social stuff. I was like, I've never seen a festival quite like this one. Like it's really kind of fun, a different kind of deal. And of
That's
course,
really
there's the
cool.
shorebirds. Yeah, there's the shorebirds, and there's the eagles, and all the alcids coming in, and you can go on a boat and see marbled merlets and maybe other merlets if you're lucky, and scoter flocks and all that kind of stuff. So very successful. We've seen a moose, bear, sea otter, river otter, all this stuff, while on the festival.
Black bears?
Black bear. Yeah, I
Mhm.
saw black bear. Others saw brown bears, but I did not. You can go on a trip to go see brown bears, actually. So that's one of the things they do. So I would highly recommend, because a lot of people are like, I would love to go to Alaska, go to the scenic part of Alaska. I'm not necessarily interested in doing the, ADAC kind of thing, a little bit more accessible, let's put it that way, than flying to Nome and so forth. And it's a great time, and it's in May. So it's super, like really welcoming group of people. So anyway, so we're leaving. Very successful, we we got a timeline. We got to get back to Anchorage. It's just, I don't know, 4-hour drive, something like that. And we want to do some birding on the way and get, food and all this stuff. So we kind of, got a bit of a window to get back to Anchorage without hurrying too much. And we're heading off. And right as, there's this big long spit, and you get off the spit and you're sort of in Homer proper. This is Homer, Alaska, Homer Spit, where the bay is. And we get the call from one of the Anchorage birders, Dave Sonneborn. He's like, we got a ivory gull over here at the tip of the spit. So we're like, oh man, that's like only a couple of miles away. It's like, all right, we got time. We got half an hour. It's like, so, so we're like, okay, our driver and fearless leader, Mike Shantz is like, half an hour, let's go do this, let's see. We go back, bird's gone, of course, like it's taken off. And we get the info that it flew off in this direction, and, we go over there and there's like a lot of kittiwakes. Everybody's like staring at the kittiwakes, and the gulls looking for, and I'm thinking it's not going to be with the gulls. Ivory gulls are weird. It's going to be where there's dead fish, like I was thinking, let's go look where the eagles are and see, if there's any dead fish. I'm kind of, but there's no time, so we give it 40 minutes or leaving again, about to get in the car, and we see people all rushing over to a place. I'm like, oh shit, they got it, It's like, so we go over there and there it is, a juvenile ivory gull at the fish plant eating dead fish that was on the ground. So like
classic.
And with one glaucous wing gull, just two birds sitting around, just milling about, very tame. And apparently it was the first one there since 1962 or something like that, because it's pretty far south in Alaska.
It is.
This is not.
I think people hear Alaska and they think, oh, well, ivory gulls must be, maybe not that rare, but without realizing that, Alaska's a big place and you got to get pretty far north to have a chance at them.
Yeah, but during the festival, I had 2 or 3 longtime Alaska birders say hello, and their greeting was like, "Hey, good to see you again, or good to meet you. Thanks for the little gull, Al." And I was like, "Oh yeah, the little gull." And way back in like 2002 or something, I was there with Jan Pearson, like leading a tour for field guides, and we found a little gull in Anchorage, which is actually another one that's really rare. Like that's for a lot of Alaska birders, it was their state lifer. It's at that time, and the first person I'd phoned that we had a number for was Dave Sonneborn for that little gull.
Oh, yeah.
He was one of the guys who said thank you for the little gull, and then so here we are later. Minutes later, we're watching the ivory gull, and then Dave shows up again to get another look and photos. And he looks at me, he says, "This is to pay you back for the little gull." and
Nice.
It's like a gull for gull trade. But I do feel like an ivory gull's worth multiple little gulls, even if it's rare. Little gull's rare where you find it, It's just such a discreetly weird creature, it's a funny
and much
shape.
harder to find, generally speaking.
Much harder to find. Yeah. It's not common anywhere, really. Even if you go to Svalbard, you're like on day 5 of a 7-day trip out in the ice in the middle of nowhere, and you're like, okay, this is our day to find ivory gull.
Right.
It's
fingers crossed. Yeah.
Fingers crossed. So it was pretty wild. So that was just lucky. And apparently it was one of the best birds in the festival for years. Like, so they've had good birds over the years, but it was one of the top. So I hit a good year.
Seriously.
Ivory gull.
Sounds like you did.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Gull karma, we called it.
Yeah. Getting into just the weirder gulls is delightful, in my opinion. It's not that
Yeah.
I don't enjoy the nuances of Gall ID that, I've got to hear a lot about over the past few
Yeah.
years with y'all. But for just my take is I don't get to spend time with a lot of gulls much to get to sit with them
Yeah.
and, work through those ID nuances. But the ones that just occupy these really strange niches that we don't fully understand, I think are so cool. And ivory
Mhm.
gull's definitely an epitome of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like swallowtail gull, ivory gull, these weirdos, they're
Mm-hmm.
just like, yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I had a really good time with Andean gulls last year. I was
Yeah. Yeah.
surprised how much I liked them. I think there's some cool ones out there,
Yeah.
if I do say
Yeah. Definitely.
so.
But good
Do
good festival, good birds. It was awesome. Good people, good food. Halibut.
it's really cool.
Halibut. Yeah.
Which talk did you give
It's
out?
good food.
I gave a talk, the birding fast and slow. About there's a lot in that talk. People seem to like it. I think so.
Nice.
I got to come up with a
That's
couple of
cool.
new talks. So I had a really good idea and I didn't write it down and I forgot what it was. I
Yep.
know it's going to pop in one day. I was like, oh yeah, write it down on the phone. Just take a little note. Yeah.
Yep.
But
Were there a lot of people from the lower 48 there? Or is it mostly Alaskans or people from Homer? Or how does that
it's
work?
it's mostly Alaskans. There's a lot of people from Anchorage, but there are people that visit from the lower 48. Yeah, definitely. Um, it's not the majority, but I think if they knew, that how accessible it is actually, to fly to Anchorage is not really
Mm-hmm.
that crazy. It's far, but and then you can rent a car and head over there and take part in some pretty cool trips. So they got it pretty well sorted out. Yeah.
Nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm reading a book about changes in Homer, human and ecological changes through the years right now, actually. Catchmack Bay.
Oh, wow.
But
Wow.
from someone who has lived in Homer for a lot of their lives. It's really cool. I'll have to talk more about it when I'm done because I'm only a few chapters in.
Yeah. No, I know that some of the locals mentioned various things, but one of them is because it's so scenic, there are some people with deep pockets that are buying houses with overlooking some of the beautiful areas and, that they use maybe for 1 month of the year and then they sit there
Yeah.
empty, which is sort of wild. But yeah, and I think that also some of the issues with fish stocks and
Mm-hmm.
herring and various other things that have changed over the years, and yeah,
Well, yeah, this book, I don't have it. It's sitting in the other room. I'll have to get the author's name. But which I got from the Homer bookstore. Alaska has so many good little publishers, and when I was there last summer, I went in and I just I feel like I cleaned them out, but I bought a ton of books that are so fascinating that I think would be harder to access outside of Alaska. But one of the first chapters of this book is talking about establishing baselines, like ecological baselines. So this person was doing field work and she was looking at like tide pools and those kinds of things, and she was talking about how just how hard it is to figure out what, quote unquote, like unimpacted nature populations of different species of animals or whatever you're looking at are. And they were talking about fisheries and they were talking about how I guess that people weren't really permanently settled in Homer. Man, I hope I'm quoting this right. Until like the mid 1900s. It was really just a seasonal place until almost the 60s when it really started to be like a year-round encampment, which I guess is the same for a lot of different native groups that have moved through there for hundreds of years, but it was never permanent. So there's this whole shifting baseline that happened not that long ago, say, 60, 70 years ago, where humans settled there year-round. And at the same time, that's when sea otters started rebounding in population. And they were talking about food sources, like mollusks and those kinds of things that indigenous peoples harvest, and how sea otters actually compete with that. And there's just this whole thing about how difficult it is to think about what the effects would be when you wiped out an apex predator and then people moved in and then the predator came back. And I thought that was all really fascinating. And I'll have to report more on it. But I'll turn this into a complaint because I was reading that chapter yesterday and then I took a walk on the property, and I've told y'all that we're slated to get transmission lines through here for the power line. And we live on reclaimed strip mine that, we have a ton of projects going on. This was like what Jimmy and I wanted to do, was purchase some land that we could, try to better over our lifetimes. And I ran into a survey crew that was just taking test plots of all different things. And they said that if landowners don't want their land destroyed, that they should own better land. And I was like,
God.
oh my God. And
it would have been very difficult to resist backhanding that person.
I ran into them before. They were at the corner of our property on the neighbor's property. I mean, it was purely by chance. I just walked out there in the middle of the day to go listen for parulas on that end of the property. But yeah, isn't that insane? So I'm glad I can complain to you guys about it. Can you imagine having the mindset that you can't better land? They're just talking about how it was garbage and how it didn't matter if they found anything. And it was a survey crew of people. I was trying to get information for just what was going on. And they were like different people representing different companies from these individuals all lived in different places. And they were just sent out here temporarily to take plot surveys. They were doing like archaeological digs and stuff like that. And I was like, well, this was stripped in the 60s, so I don't think you're going to find anything predate. Never forget.
Gosh, to think Kristen and I, we had some, it happens, I would say every couple months we have some pest control service that comes around the neighborhood to quote unquote service some other neighbor. And then they stop by our place and like, that raises my ire. We really gave some poor guy an earful the other day. He came out. Chris and I do these garden strolls where we'll take a beer and go around and look at stuff and think about what we're going to do. And this guy interrupted one of those with the offer to basically, use a bunch of pesticides on our place.
He picked the wrong time to do that.
Yeah, he really did. So that enraged me, perhaps even to an unnecessary and unreasonable degree. If I had the experience you had, that would have been very, very difficult to swallow. Yeah. Eesh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what kind of pests, like pesticide, like pest removal for rats or something like that? Or is it, what are they doing?
No, it was insects. I mean, the thing was that they were fishing for business. So he started to offer all sorts of different things. Some of the stuff they use would be pretty devastating to a lot of what we're trying to do here. But to be fair, maybe we should have let him have a few more words than he got in. But he learned pretty quickly that. I also just think that going door to door these days is, it feels pretty intrusive. But anyway,
in California that there were these mosquito abatement districts. I don't know if you have them in the East, but they would fly over and just dump, stuff to kill the mosquitoes. You never saw a mosquito. And everybody was like, well, I mean, I'd be like, are we okay with this? And people are like, well, I mean, we don't want mosquitoes. And everybody was kind of like okay with it because it always had been, and I was just thinking like, what the heck is that doing? And, they'll say, oh, well, it's not long lasting stuff and, it doesn't stay in the water or whatever. But I'm thinking, okay, but if you have a bunch of mosquitoes in the Bay Area, your property values go down, right? So I don't know. There really are no mosquitoes, like zilcho.
Yeah.
So
Crazy.
it works.
Yeah, there's a lot of anti-mosquito. There's a lot of mosquito fogging, stuff that happens around here. And fortunately, there's some fight back because that is apparently not effective. Mosquito fogging is not effective against mosquitoes, but kills just about everything else. So I don't think, anyway, this is I don't feel like I know enough to really to go whole hog on this subject, but
that's never stopped us before. We often talk about stuff we have no idea
that
about.
Is true. That is true. But one thing before we scoot here, Mollee, is I know that you have a new endeavor, and I think you should tell folks a little bit about it.
Yeah, I have better news. So back it was right between Christmas and New Year's, I went into the local Wild Birds Unlimited store, which has been open here in Morgantown for 10 years. And I was buying some Christmas gifts, and the owner said, I got this with 2 5-year leases, and the second one is up in May, and I'm retiring. In March. It was at the end of March. And I thought, that's crazy. And he said he didn't have a buyer, and that was it. And he was closing up shop, and I slept on it, and then called him the next day, and I was like, just let me see the paperwork and see if this is anything at all feasible. So it's been a little bit of a rush the past couple months, but Jimmy and I are taking over the Morgantown Wild Birds Unlimited, and we're really, really excited. So we've been working through all that, and we're recording this on Wednesday, and we're signing the final paperwork Thursday. So I can talk about this before it actually happens, since this episode will come out after. And we've got big plans, so we're really excited.
That is so awesome. Congratulations to you guys.
Yeah,
I've been so enjoying following this process with you, and excited to come see the store when it's ready to rock. These places really kind of serve not just as shops a lot of our listeners will be familiar with them, but I know that a lot of these spots kind of serve as almost like cultural hubs for talks and all sorts of gatherings as well. So I'm sure you and Jimmy have been dreaming up all sorts of projects.
Yeah, we have been. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it just seems so crazy, and it was like, well, if this little thing fell in line, then we would do it. And then well, okay, as long as this works out, then maybe we'll keep going. And it's all just worked out. But yeah, the same staff staying on, who's great. We've known them for years, and they've pretty much been there the whole time that the store's been there. And the big thing is that we're moving the store. It's going to be about 3 times the floor space, which means we're putting in a community room, and we're going to have space for talks and get to do we have big plans. We're keeping our day jobs, so it's all going to be extra stuff. So we'll see how quickly it happens. But we're taking over this shop or this place that was a vet office, actually, and the vet is building a new place next to it, and they're moving out at the beginning of June, and then we get to start the build out, which I think is going to be really fun. And we'll get to work through all of that, and we've been going through everything with corporate, and there's an annual Wild Birds Unlimited conference that a lot of folks that we've had on the podcast have spoken at and been a part of. Holly Merker does a lot with it, and it happens to be in Pittsburgh this year, which is great. It's close, so we actually get to go. So we'll be there at the beginning of June, and we are diving in. So I'm pretty excited.
It's fantastic.
Cool. Yeah, that's wild. Will people be able, lifeless folks, be able to order things from you eventually? Like if they want, direct order to,
We that has crossed my mind, and we will sell online. So, so if you don't have a Wild Birds Unlimited, get your birdseed from us.
Yeah, and lifeless T-shirts, crab hats.
Ooh, now we're talking.
Ooh, that could be our hub. That's right. We're kind of dreaming this space up to be like everything that we want for birding that we can't get around here. So we're going to carry a lot of birding gear too.
Right.
And I can't wait to talk about this more. But, Wild Birds Unlimited, their main seed sourcers in Ohio, it's an Amish country. And a lot of the seed that you get from a Wild Birds Unlimited store, it all comes from the U.S., minus Niger. But most of it comes from not that far from here in the Midwest. So I signed up for all the talks about the seed sourcing that for this conference that's coming up. And I actually think that's really cool. I look forward to tracing where it's coming from more. And we're just gonna make the most of it and try not to get too overwhelmed. And it'll be fun to share those updates. I don't actually know how many lifeless listeners there are in Morgantown, but we'll see who buys our stuff.
It's funny.
People should swing by and check it out.
Some things that are as simple as you would think, like bird feeders and hummingbird feeders. Like there's a million types, and I've always had like a real pain in the butt with hummingbird feeders, like the washing them and all this stuff and whatever.
Yep.
And then I found this one brand that I'm like, I'm going to try this one, and it's in the front, it said like best hummingbird feeder ever, or something like that. Bob Sargent. I'm like, Bob Sargent used to be one of our clients at Field Guides. It's like, I know Bob Sargent.
Yeah, Bob and Martha.
Bob and Martha. And I'm like, if Bob and Martha think this, they passed away. At least Bob did ages ago. If they think this is a good feeder, I'm going to buy this feeder. And I did. And it is actually the most well-designed thing. And I'm like, why doesn't this take over the feeder market? Anyway, we could talk about it, but there's so many different styles and stuff. And then some are like, you're like, oh, this looks good. And then, the flower things pop off, or this goes up, and then it breaks.
Yes.
But there's all of this stuff that you would think would be like way more foolproof, for the feeder enthusiast. But yeah, it'd be cool when you can give us some info on that once you get into it.
Yeah, you'll have to give me the info too. I was on a tirade about this morning with Jimmy because I told you the bear took out all of our feeders. So I've been working on fixing them, and I've been deep cleaning them while they're all, a mess. And our hummingbird feeders are trash. They are not from Wild Birds Unlimited. The bear didn't even get into them, but when I was cleaning one, it broke, and I didn't realize it. So then my neck, hummingbird sugar water leaked everywhere because it was one of the flower things, and the bottom was cracked, and it just soaked everything, and there were ants everywhere, and I was so mad. But I've had other feeders, as you said, that are really hard to clean. I know I plan on having cleaning days at our Wild Birds where, I don't know, once a month or something, and just offer to bring feeders in, and we'll clean your feeders because that'll be a cathartic experience.
Binocular cleaning too. That'd be kind of cool.
Binocular cleaning. Yeah. Gosh, that'll have to be a thing. Yeah. Well, we're going to have our binocular. We'll have to talk about all this. I'll share updates.
But remember,
with y'all,
seed is where it's at.
Just about to begin.
That's your bread and butter is the seed. So,
yeah.
Keep your eye on the ball.
It is. We've we've talked about that. It really is. I guess a huge portion of this franchise's sales are seed because it is good quality fresh seed, and it's pretty easy to. That's why we buy it. That's why we're customers.
Yeah, that's where I get our stuff too. Yeah. Yeah.
It's really good, fresh, not far from here. Sourced seed. But yeah, so that is our bread and butter, and then whatever else we add on that is like the cherry on top, right? So we're thinking about how we want to do that, and like I said, it's a small store as far as the franchise goes anyway, but since we have the space to expand, we're thinking about what kinds of products we would like to expand into, and then we're gonna build a whole deck, and we're gonna have outdoor furniture from the furniture stores that Jimmy has. We're gonna have that in there, so we have a little sitting area, and we're starting to set aside books, and we're gonna have a bookshelf of books to set up, and bird friendly coffee and all the stuff. So I'm
Cool.
just shooting to make it a place that I want to hang out in.
Yeah, it sounds like it'll be fantastic.
I think so. We'll see how progress goes. So the store's closed because it did close. The lease was up at the end of March, and we're reopening in the fall. So the summer's going to be the build out and prepping for that.
Nice.
Awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
that's really good news. Yeah, that's
Thanks.
awesome.
Yep.
Well,
Excited to learn more about that. You're gonna as you go, I'm sure you're gonna learn so much stuff, and we can
Mhm.
we'll learn with you. That'll be a fun process.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted.
Yeah.
I have a lot of tours this summer, so I'm just going to be coming back and seeing the changes as they come through. So I'm definitely not the person at the helm for this, but I will be eagerly participating on the sidelines.
Nice. Cool beans. Well, guys, I think we should scoot because the time is nigh.
It is that time.
I will ask our listeners, though, a very specific questions. Those who are really super fans. Has there been a time when George has been on this podcast where he has not said the word scoot? I leave that there for you. Maybe, maybe not. I do not know the answer, but this is a George word. I like it. But
It is.
does he ever not say it? It's almost like a
I'm gonna have to-
catchphrase now. You think
Every
of the
time,
opening
I keep
as a catchphrase. It's
yeah.
the closing is a catchphrase too, George. You are a catchphrase
True.
maker. You are.
I'm a creature
a
of habit as
wordsmith.
much as anything. Yeah.
I've often thought that we should make, T-shirts or something that say
Time to scoot.
on the back. It can just say "nice."
Yeah, I had no idea how much I say that until this podcast started happening. I was like, oh, wow, that's
Nice.
But yeah, I think it's involuntary at this point. So
We all
Cool.
have.
I like it.
Mhm.
Yeah, we all have 'em. And we all notice them when we listen to these things in the car. And I'm like,
Oh, we do.
dang, I said that again, Man.
Mhm. Yep.
right
Yeah.
on. Well, guys, thanks everybody for listening. And thanks, Koa Sporting Optics, for helping us
Oh, yeah.
do what we do. And we'll be back again soon with another episode of Life List, a birding podcast. Take care, guys.
See you guys.
Bye.